All right, morning. Anyway, I've got a little something different, and well, basically, unfortunately, I can't show you all the steps that I did yesterday. I'll do my best to recreate them, but what happened was the prep work that I did on this little project right here, the video file got corrupted somehow. I don't know how. So let me go ahead and undo my steps, and I will show you exactly what it is that you need to do. So anyway, 4th of July is coming up, and you know what? I like barbecue, and well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can eat barbecue any damn time you please. But anyway, what I am doing is I am prepping a rack of baby back ribs, and this is going to be how you can do your ribs without having to go into the oven. Although I am going to finish these on the grill, they don't need a lot of time on the grill. But I'm going to show you a way around that as well. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to make yourself a rub. And what I have, it's a very, very simple rub. You can certainly go to the grocery store and get something commercial off the shelf. If you've got a spice pantry, you can mix something up based on based on your own preferences, based on the recipe you find on the internet. What I did was I grabbed some Mrs. Dash's extra spicy, and then some chipotle powder, and there we go. And then I added a good helping of kosher salt to that, and then a good helping of brown sugar to it as well. And then what I did was I gave my rack right there of baby back ribs a very generous coating of the rub. I had a little bit left over, and I put that on a hamburger, and it was actually pretty good. So anyway, now the next thing is with the prep for the ribs, and well, it's very, very simple. You just want to put them in a long piece of aluminum foil. But although before you do that, right here on the back, there's a membrane that goes across. And what you want to do there is you want to take a knife. It doesn't have to be a really sharp knife, and you just want to work it under the edge of the membrane. And then when you get your thumb or your finger under there, you can just grab it and peel it off. It's going to be like a giant sheet of that cryo wrap plastic that they use. So that's how that goes. So you want to, yeah, I am not touching that with my funky fingers there. So I want to get a better angle. Okay, good, that's perfect. All right, so anyway, you want to get that membrane off of there, because you don't have to take it off, but I highly recommend it because it's like chewing on, well, plastic basically. So next thing you want to do is, after you get the dry rub down there, you got this in here now, and obviously I'm doing this on a baking sheet just in case I do have leakage. But you want to seal this back up in the foil. So you want to get the foil crimped and just fold it over on itself once, and then squeeze it down tightly. Now you're not going to get an airtight waterproof seal, but you're going to get a pretty good seal, and that's important for the next step. But let's go ahead. I'm folding this over once. I'm just folding on this crease itself, and I just keep folding over, and I'm pinching it down. And again, I'm getting it as tight as I possibly can. And then on one end here, I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to fold it into a triangle, fold it over on itself, fold it over itself again, and again. So I'm just making a really, really tight seal. But at the other end, I have an opening, and this end, well, when you're doing this prep, you want to just very lightly seal it. You don't have to super tightly seal it, because what's going to happen is this goes in the refrigerator for a while. You can do it for a few hours. You can certainly do overnight. That's probably the best way to go. Then next morning or next day or whatever, later on, next day, go ahead and take it back out, and you open up the one end, and then you want to get a flavorful liquid. Now this can be anything you want. It can be beer, it could be apple juice, it could be some honey mustard. You do want a fairly, well, watery consistency. So if you need to add a little bit of water to whatever it is you're making and thin it out. But in this case, I've got just a little bit of water and a little bit of molasses, and Yeah, you can smell the molasses. I'm adding some sweet to this. There's some sweet from brown sugar, but this is going to give me a little more sweet. So anyway, going to take this, and there's not a lot here. There's only about 1/3 of a cup, and I'm just going to pour it right on in. And what's going to happen is that molasses is going to add some smokiness as it cooks. But I'm going to let that glug on down. And now I'm going to seal this end of the foil up the same way I sealed the other end. And now the plan is to throw this in the oven for about 3 or 4 hours at 225 degrees, just barely above the boiling point of water. And what will happen is that liquid that's in there, plus the liquid that's going to come off the ribs themselves, is going to braise these ribs. And when I take them out of the oven, they are going to be so bloody tender. So I will. Anyway, that's that for now. I'm gonna get these started, and I will be back and show you what the next step is. So I'll talk to you in a bit. All right, I got the ribs. Crap! Out of the oven, and well, let me show you what I just did. So the foil pouch broke open, and there is a lot of liquid falling out of there. So this is not quite what I meant to do, but it's certainly close enough. What I wanted to do was actually lift this up and pour it directly into a saucepan. And that's what you want to do with all this liquid here. This is good stuff. And we're just going to pour that out. And now I'm going to set the ribs off to the side for just a minute, and try to pour the rest of this in here. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go the other way around. Let's go ahead and open this up, and I'll show you just what we're looking at here with the ribs. These things are super tender. Look at that. They are almost literally falling off the bone. Not quite, but close. They have braised for about 3.5 hours. So you can see just how tender they are. And I'm going to whack myself off a little hunk of this. And these are done. You could eat these as is if you wanted to. So there we go. Good flavor. Yeah. A little bit of heat. Okay. But the thing is, that dry rub, well, it's no longer dry. So the plan, like I said, these are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this dripping liquid into a barbecue sauce, and I'll come back and talk to you about that here in just a moment. The next thing I have to do, though, is I want to get these ribs out. Get these ribs out on the grill, and I'm just going to do a slow smoke on them for maybe an hour or so. And as soon as I'm done with that, they are ready to eat. But thing is, like I said, I want the smokiness. Now, if you do not have a grill, what you can do is you can take a large baking sheet like this, put a rack on it, an elevated rack like, say, this, and then very, very tightly seal the whole thing up with aluminum foil, heavy-duty aluminum foil. Put some wood chips in there, again, on some foil, but put them on the actual bottom of the baking sheet. Keep the ribs up above the baking sheet. You can put them in the oven at 400 degrees. That will cause the wood chips to smolder, and they will smoke inside the foil, and you can get that in your oven. Just be careful when you open the foil up, because you will likely set off smoke alarms in your house. You will not need to do that for too long, say maybe 20 minutes to half an hour. You don't want to over smoke the rib. Well, let me rephrase it. It's hard to over smoke the ribs. You don't want to dry the ribs out, is what I'm talking about. And being in there at 400 degrees, that will definitely work to dry them out. So anyway, let me mess with what I have to mess with here, and I'll come back and talk to you about the sauce. I was thinking about the wood and the wood chips in the oven. Now, first thing you want to do, you want to use some hardwood. You can get hickory, you can get oak chips, you can get applewood chips, anything like that. And it's not a bad idea to maybe soak them in some water, put them in a separate foil pouch, and then you can, do your thing. Another thing you can certainly do, is you can get a Dutch oven, and you can put the Dutch oven directly on the burner of the stove. Put that foil pouch with the wood chips in the bottom of the Dutch oven, and then raise the ribs on a rack off of there, and in that way you don't have to put as much direct heat on there. That's another method. But again, what you want to do, you do want to be careful. You don't want to smoke out your apartment. You do not want to set off your smoke alarms, especially if they're tied to a fire sprinkler system. So anyway, with that being said, I took all those juices from the, there you go, I think you can see that. Yeah, let's try that instead. I took all those juices from the pan, and I just got them in a saucepan here, and what I'm doing is I'm reducing them. And I mean, I've got the water, I've got the molasses, I've got the drippings from the ribs themselves with all those wonderful spices in there. Yeah, and that's coming out pretty good. It's a bit on the salty side though. So that's something that you're going to have to watch out for. I think it needs a little bit more sweet, but I'm going to take care of that with a couple of things. I don't have barbecue sauce. I'm going to turn this into a barbecue sauce. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some ketchup, get some tomato going there. So, and that cooled it down a bit. So I'm just going to turn the heat up a notch. And I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this with with any measurements. I'm just kind of playing it fast and loose here. All I'm trying to do is figure out, what kind of flavor I'm looking for. I know what kind of flavor I like, so I want to get that. I want to get a kind of tomatoey, molassesy sauce going on here. So let's see if that was enough ketchup. Yeah, maybe a bit more. And you could certainly use tomato paste. You can certainly use crushed tomatoes or something like that. But I'm also going to add a good shot of mustard, and then maybe a tablespoon, and then a little bit more molasses, and that's just going to give it a bit more sweet. And that was what, maybe a couple of tablespoons. So anyway, as this is coming back up to a boil, I'm just going to give this a good solid stir. And instead of the wet mustard, you can use dried mustard. You could add, although that might overpower or be underpowered by the flavorings. So all I'm trying to do here is balance some stuff out, get some sweet, cut back on the salty, get some sweet in there, get a little bit more acid, and I'll get that from the vinegar in the mustard and the ketchup. And at this point, it's starting to actually smell like a barbecue sauce. So, and the mustard is kind of congealing in there, but that's all right. Okay. Oh, got a chunk of spice. We are close. We are very, very close. It's got that tomatoey flavor. It's got a hint of mustard in there. I think it needs a little bit more sweet. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of molasses. And then if that doesn't quite do it, I might add a little brown sugar, but I will definitely wait until we're close to finishing, because I do not want the sugars to burn. Now, what you can do is after you've got your flavors balanced out, you just go ahead and let it reduce till it's the consistency you want. You might like it thin, you might like it thick. That's up to you. But what you'll do is that at that point you can just baste it onto your ribs. If you are not cooking over a grill, what you do is you baste on the ribs, you throw the ribs under the broiler for a moment, let things start to caramelize, get a little crunchy, pull the ribs out, put another coat on, repeat, until you're done. So with that, I'm gonna keep working on this and let it do its thing, and I'll be back in a little bit and show you what the final result looks like. So, see you in a bit. Okay, and well, here is the final result of all that work on the ribs. And what I did here, like I said, I just dunked it in that barbecue sauce that I made up, threw it under the broiler, flipped it once both sides had browned up a bit, repeated. So take a look at that. That is just gorgeous. The color, a little bit of char on there, which I do like. And let me show you just how tender these are. I can do it without burning my finger. mm. And that came out good. Could use a little more sauce, but you know, that's okay. Anyway, with that, well, I hope you learned something today. If you hadn't got out to ever make some ribs, this is a really easy way to do it. So, hope you have a hit a pepper again. Anyway, hope you have a good 4th of July, or you know, whatever holiday that you happen to celebrate. And with that, I think I will talk to you later. After I eat this, of course. Bye.